and he gave an amazing talk. He's one of the best speakers I've ever seen. So please welcome Stan Slapp.
Yes, it's true. While you're sitting here in this room, 3 groups are deciding the success of your business. Your manager culture, your employee culture, and your customer culture, generally in that order. And I'm going to talk to you today about how to achieve maximum commitment in all 3 of those cultures. How your business cultures work, that's a big subject. We could spend a lifetime talking about how your business cultures work. I don't have a lifetime to spend talking about how your business cultures work. I have 20 minutes. So I figured I had a choice. I could make the 20 minutes seem like a lifetime to you. Or I could focus on what's most important. Today I'm going to focus on what's most important. How these cultures really work and how to really work them. But really, the bigger issue about all of this. And before I do, let me tell you, when we're talking about cultures, we're not talking about a bunch of managers, employees, and customers. When they form in a relationship with a company, these groups become cultures. And that means they're far more self-protective, they're far more intelligent, and they're far more resistant to standard methods of corporate influence. That's probably not late-breaking news that you have managers, employees, and customers in your company. But it's only when you uniquely understand them as cultures that problems once considered unsolvable are finally resolved, and opportunities once considered unattainable are finally realized. If these cultures want something to happen in your business, it's going to happen. If they don't, it won't. But really, there's a bigger issue at stake here. What's the worst thing, short of homicide? What's the worst thing one human being can do to another? I believe it's to make someone feel small, to say you're not, you can't, you won't ever be. That's a homicide of the soul. That's death of hope and potential. And the world works. It goes to work. It's affected by work. If people are diminished by business, working in it or buying from it, that doesn't stay in business. That jumps the fence and follows people home. And your employees and your customers, their parents, their partners, their neighbors, their voters, if they are made to feel small in their roles as parents, partners, neighbors, and voters, the toxic impact is incalculable. If we lose humanity in business, we're all doomed. When we save it, company by company, then we've saved ourselves. Listen, you want to make products, you want to make money, you want to build a company. Those are very, very good things. We're going to talk about how to do those good things today. You want to use your time in business to have a legacy impact on other human beings. That's a great thing. And that opportunity is available to you because cultures are where the humans gather in your business. And you cannot protect these cultures without protecting the humanity that they represent and probably rediscovering your own humanity where it may have been lost in the labyrinth of your job description. Now, just in case the icy hand of altruism hasn't gripped your own company by the throat, don't worry about it. I'm talking about making the business case for humanity. In any organizational environment where meaning is determined by metrics, understanding how these 3 cultures work and how to work them is the best opportunity you have to achieve dependable success. So let's talk about these 3 cultures. Let's start with your employee culture, where the maximum commitment is ensuring that the culture makes strategies happen even better than they're planned. Now, before we talk about the employee culture, let me just ask you a quick question. How many people in this room today are managers with head count? Raise your delicate, well-manicured fingers, please. Okay, how many of you would classify yourself more as the managed? Raise your tough, callous, working-class hands, please. All right, so for those of you who are the managed, I'm going to be talking about the power of an employee culture for a little bit here. Don't you be getting all snarly and cocky going, your career could take a sudden wrong turn, you could become a manager that fast, you're going to wish you'd listened to this information. Now, what are the goals you have for your business? Increased revenue, faster time to market, protected market share, world domination. Which employee, if you're a manager, which employee could ever argue with the irrefutable logic of these corporate strategies? In a perfect world, your people wouldn't argue at all. They'd immediately grasp this logic and devote themselves wholeheartedly toward achieving them. Well, wake up, wipe the drool from your desk, and say hi to reality. Because in the real world, neither business logic, nor management authority, nor any compelling competitive urgency will ever convince an employee culture to adopt a corporate cause as if it were its own. In that killing field between company concept and employee commitment lies many a failed strategic plan. You want your people to buy some new strategy or goal? Well, that's fine. That means you have to know how to sell it to them. That means knowing how to sell to an employee culture, knowing how the culture works and how to work it. And it is not the responsibility of your employee culture to understand the business logic. It is a responsibility of the business to understand the employee culture's logic. When people share the same basic lifestyle, environment, and traditions, they form as a culture with the purpose of sharing beliefs about the rules of survival and emotional prosperity. So in an employee culture, that means what does it take to survive in this industry, in this company, on this team working for you? And knowing that I'm basically going to be okay, then how do I get rewarded emotionally and avoid punishment? Now you may think if you're a manager, okay, like how hard is this, right? Make your numbers, okay? You'll survive. You'll keep your job and we'll tell you you're doing a great job. Done. No, not done. That only works for an employee culture if there's a reliable through line between what happens to the company and what happens to the culture. And that is really rarely the case. So if you want an employee culture to support you, it'll support you, but you cannot bribe, bluff, or bully an employee culture. The employee culture's antenna is working 24/7. Its credibility detector is infallible. Its perceptions are alarmingly accurate. Its memory is elephantine. You can't tell a culture what to believe. You can't stop a culture from existing. You cannot bribe, bluff, or bully a culture into reliably doing anything. But if you're a manager, you can take strong comfort from knowing that an employee culture is the ultimate rational organism. It just wants to understand the known rules of survival and emotional prosperity. It wants those to be reliable. Your employee culture will give you anything you want, but you have to give it what it wants first. And it wants to know what are the reliable rules of survival and emotional prosperity. You remember just that one thing, and you'll be halfway home. Or, in a halfway home. Either way, you'll have made progress. Now let's talk about a manager culture for a minute. Because a manager culture has got different enough dynamics of survival and emotional prosperity within an organization that it makes it its own legitimate subculture. What's the maximum commitment in a manager culture? It is emotional commitment. Emotional commitment. A manager's emotional commitment is worth more than their financial, intellectual, and physical commitment combined. It's the ultimate trigger for their discretionary effort. Now, I can tell you, any manager in this room today, joining every other manager in your company, joining every other manager in the world, can appear fully productive and enthusiastic simply because you're financially, intellectually, and physically committed. But if you've ever witnessed a human being emotionally committed to a cause, working like they're being paid $1 million, they're not being paid a dime, oh, you know there's a difference, and you know it's big. Well, it may be big, but it's not easy. The key neurobiological source of emotional commitment in a human being comes from their ability to live their own deepest personal values in any relationship or environment. So if you're a manager, that means in the relationship with your company and your environment at work. Well, manager may be a great job to have. You may be having a great time doing that job. But embedded in any manager's job description is the constant requirement to subordinate or even compromise personal values in favor of company priorities. Now, I'm not saying, if you're a manager, I'm not saying you're out there committing heinous acts as part of some Faustian bargain. Although, even if you are, listen up. What I am saying is what the company wants done and how it wants it done must regularly take precedence over your own deep priorities. That's what it means to be a manager. You serve your company first. Well, you put somebody in a position like that, and they're going to detach to protect themselves. For my first book, Bury My Heart at Conference Room B, I interviewed 10,000 managers. These are managers from Manhattan to Mumbai, from executive to entry level, in different countries, in different companies, in different lines of business, from many of the world's most admired companies. And one of the questions I asked them is, well, what are your most important personal values? And the answers, the number 1 and 2 answers most often chosen by those managers were this. Number 1 was family, number 2 was integrity. Now I asked those same 10,000 managers, what are the personal values you are most under pressure to compromise on a regular basis to do your job successfully? Watch me now, this goes very quickly. You better file that under big trouble. You are looking at the equation for emotional detachment in a management population. Now, companies know what they want most from their managers. They want their managers to protect and promote the company like a personal cause, emotional commitment. But they're anxious about the implications of that. From the corporate perspective, if we set you free to pursue your own priorities, maybe you won't prioritize the company. Well, the new truth is the company cannot be the first cause all the time. Managers' ability to practice true personal fulfillment within the company must also be a cause. Now, this isn't licensing chaos, it's ensuring control. There is no better way for the company to become the cause than by not always insisting on being the cause. Well, that's the life of your company. How about your own life? Why should you live your deepest personal values? Because your deepest personal values are your very own source of safety, hope, and renewal. Because true work-life balance is not a matter of escaping from work. It's a matter of living the way you really want to, whether you're at work or whether you're not at work. Because if you don't know what's true for you, everyone else has unusual influence. Because if you're not on your own agenda, you're prey to everybody else's. Now, I don't want to stand up here acting all emotionally evolved. It's actually a violation of my parole. I'm not able to do that. The whole thing is taken completely out of context. Anyway, but I will tell you this. This is your one and only precious life. Someone is going to decide how it's going to be lived. And that person had better be you. We're talking about a customer culture. The maximum commitment your customer culture can give you is if it brands you. Now, every company wants to be a brand. Even if they don't necessarily know why, they don't necessarily know what a brand is, they don't know how to get branded, they don't know who decides whether they're branded, they don't know when they're actually branded. The reason that your company should want to be a brand is that when you become a brand, you achieve something you cannot achieve any other way. When you become a brand, you transfer sustainability of your company to your customer. And customers advertise and sell for you, and they step up to protect you if you stumble or get attacked. Now, if you can cause that to happen on your watch, you've not only solved a lot of current issues, you've fixed the future of the company. Well, what is a brand? Well, here's what a brand is not. A brand is not about advertising. The only people that believe that advertising and branding are the same things is somebody trying to sell you advertising. A brand is not about communicating your intent to the world. A brand is about why the world should care. It's not an action, it's a reaction. It's not about what you do. You get branded because of what happens when you do it. And a brand is not about size. You're not a brand because you're big, or Siberia would be a brand. You can be a brand as a company of any size. You can be a one-person brand if you want to be. You just have to do the right things. And a brand is not about achieving trust in customers. A brand is about achieving the highest level of trust possible in human beings. A brand is about achieving faith. Now, faith is I believe, but I don't know. And a brand answers the most important question for your customer culture. How can we trust you when you tell us you care? It's got to be an extension of faith by your customer culture to your company, because your customer culture can't tell for sure exactly how you're going to act when it gets into trouble or you get into trouble. It has to grant you faith. Now, a culture doesn't even like to extend trust because it could be vulnerable. To extend unfounded trust is the rarest gift a culture will ever give. And you are only going to get it based upon something you can control. What does that mean? It means you cannot be branded just for what you sell, because you can't have an exclusive lock on what you sell, not on a sustainable basis. So you can't just be branded for what you sell, you also have to be branded for how you sell it. You need a brandable customer experience, spectacular, signature, and sustainable. Whatever claims you make about your product, it's innovative, it's relevant, it's sexy, it's customer-centric. That same DNA better be immaculately and overtly represented in the process that somebody goes through to buy and use your product. Because if not, you've just diluted the product claims and you've broken trust with the customer culture. But even more important than what you sell and how you sell, if you really want to enter brand territory, you've got to give real thought to why you sell. Those few companies that actually become brands, they're very, very good about what they sell and how they sell it. But they're driven by why they sell it. They're driven by passion. And that passion is what really kickstarts the business. The business is conceived as a delivery vehicle to build a better world. What's right with the world that must be protected? What's wrong with the world that must be corrected? If your company's only passion is to make money, the cost of making that money will always prove more expensive and difficult than it needs to be. Your customer culture is not infatuated with your revenue concerns. Now, if you only want to be relevant to your customer when you're trying to sell them something, okay. But there's an awful lot happening in your customer's world, and you're choosing to be irrelevant to them for most of the time. And that is a very dangerous business strategy, and that is nothing that will get you branded. Now, I only have a few minutes left here. So I have one urgent recommendation for you as management, representing the company, and I have an urgent recommendation for you as managers, whether you actually have that position or not. You're managing something in the business. So my urgent recommendation for you as managers, stop planning strategies like bad kung fu films. Has anybody here ever seen a bad kung fu film? You actually only have to see one. You're automatically pre-qualified to see all the rest of it, because they're all the same. Excuse me. In every bad kung fu film, we have our hero, who's a simple, humble kind of guy, except he's also a blazing kung fu master. Which is why he can be a simple, humble kind of guy, because he can kill you with a paperclip. And in every bad kung fu film, he's also a normal kind of guy, except for one strange twist. There's just one thing that gets our hero's nose wide open in every bad kung fu film. And that is, he loves walking down dark, deserted roads in the middle of the night. I mean, some people, golf is just his thing. Invariably, in every bad kung fu film, that dark, deserted road leads to the town square, which is also dark and deserted because it's the middle of the night. And invariably, whenever our hero arrives at the dark, deserted town square, he's promptly jumped by 5 bad guys. Now, they are also blazing kung fu masters. Evidently, everybody in town is a blazing kung fu master. Excuse me. And our hero would be toast. The movie would be over in 10 minutes. Except for the strange etiquette found in every bad kung fu film, which is that only one of the bad guys goes after our hero at a time, while the rest just wait docilely till that guy's dispatched. My turn. Okay. They are 5 bad, dumb guys. And companies plan strategies the same way. You're going to conceive of your latest go-to-market strategy, you're going to think it through, you're going to fund it, and you're going to execute it. And your competitors are just going to wait until you've done all of those things. And then they're going to say, oh, my turn. Doesn't work like that. The competition is in meetings right now, too. Not as good as this one, but still. All the good work that you've done to grow and protect your company, that's just dealt you into the game. Now, you're in the big game. You're in the game with the most aggressive, intelligent, well-resourced players around. The question is, which company wins the game? And the company that wins the game is the first company to understand these three things. You can't sell it outside if you can't sell it inside. Managers will never really work for their company until their company really works for them. You must be branded for how and why you sell, not just for what you sell. Now I've got 1 minute left, and I want to leave you now, as promised, with my most urgent recommendation for you as managers. Whether you actually hold that title, whether you're planning on holding that title at some point, or you just manage some function in the business in some way every day when you go to work. For yourself, because it's your life that's at stake here. This time, the time that you're spending in the business, you don't get this time back. Your life is happening to you right now. For your family, because the health of your family outside the job depends in large part on the health of your family inside the job. If you're a manager, for your people, because it's not easy working in environments of constant uncertainty and pressure, with regular reminders of how little control you have over your work life, for someone who you only know as management. For your customers, because people don't trust companies, they trust people. For your company, because you're not a products company or a services company or a technology company. You're a human company selling products, selling services, selling technology. And the pivot point upon which any strategic success rests is a discretionary effort of your human organizations. And finally, for the world. Because let's face it, things are very weird out there right now. And I'm not just talking economically or politically. The world is a scary, uncertain place. And we actually have every indication that things are going to get a whole lot weirder before they get any better. Now, what is it that all of the good people gathered here together in this room today can possibly do about the conditions that affect the world at large? Not much, except to extend our own humanity to the people that we are closest to, including the people that we see every day, including our employees and our customers. And so for all of those reasons, I urge you to be human first and a manager second. Thank you.
Dan, great job. Thank you.